Oh, hello, great readers. I'm Belchan.
I'm Nimikung.
I'm Banchan.
In this class, I'll read to all of you a part of Great Expectations.
As.
Ah.
Great Expectations. Charles Dickens. Chap 4 Sec 1. I fully expected to find a constable in the kitchen, waiting to take me up. But not only was there no constable there, but no discovery had yet been made of the robbery. Mice. Joe was prodigiously busy in getting the house ready for the festivities of the day. To pen an article into which his destiny always led him. So an hour later, when my sister was vigorously reaping the floors of her establishment. "And where the deuce have you been?" was Joe's Christmas salutation. When I and my conscience showed ourselves, I said I had been down to hear the carols. "Ah, well," observed Mice, "though you might have done worse. Not a doubt of that," I thought. Perhaps if I was a blacksmith's wife. And what's the same thing as slave with her apron never off? "I should have been to hear the carols," said Mice. "Joe, I'm rather partial to carols." Myself. "Joe, you had ventured into the kitchen after me as the dustbin had retired before us." Drew the back of his hand across his nose with a conciliatory air. When Mice. Joe darted a look at him. And then, when her eyes were withdrawn, secretly crossed his two forefingers and exhibited them to me as our token that Joe was in a cross temper. This was so much her normal state that Joe and I would often, for weeks together, they asked our fingers, like monumental crusaders as to their legs. We were to have a superb dinner, consisting of a leg of pickled pork and greens, and a pair of roast stuffed foals. Best. And the pudding was already on the boil. These extensive arrangements occasioned us to be cut off unceremoniously in respect of breakfast. "For I ain't," said Mice, "Joe ain't going to have no formal cramming and busting. And washing up now, with what I've got before me." So, we had our slices served out, and boy at home, and we took gulps of milk and water, with apologetic countenances, from a jug on the dresser. In the meantime, Mice. Joe picking white curtains up, and tacked a new foured fence across the wide chimney to replace the old one, and covered the little state parlour across the passage, which was never uncovered at any other time, but passed the rest of the year in a cool haze of silver paper, which even extended to the 4 little white crockery poodles on the mantel shelf, each with a black nose and a basket of flowers in his mouth, and each the counterpart of the other. Mice. Joe was a very clean housekeeper. Itself. Cleanliness is next to godliness, and some people do the same by their religion. My sister, having so much to do, was going to church vicariously. That is to say, Joe and I were going in his working clothes. Joe was a walnut characteristic looking blacksmith in his holiday clothes. He was more like a scarecrow in good circumstances, than anything else. Nothing that he wore then fitted him or seemed to belong to him, and everything that he wore then grazed him. On the present festive occasion he emerged from his room, when the blithe bells were going, the picture of misery, in a full suit of Sunday penitentials. As to me, to be dealt with according to the outraged majesty of the law, the dictates of reason, religion, and morality, and against the dissuading arguments of my best friends. Even when I was taken to have a new suit of clothes, the tailor had orders to make them like a kind of reformatory, and on no account to let me have the free use of my limbs. Joe and I going to church, therefore, must have been a moving spectacle for compassionate minds. Yet, what I suffered outside was nothing to what I underwent within. The terrors that had assailed me whenever Joe had gone near the pantry, or out of the room, my head had done, under the weight of my wicked secret, of the terrible young man, if I divulged to that establishment. Clergyman said, propose a private conference in the vestry. By resorting to this extreme measure, but for its being Christmas Day and no Sunday, Mr. Wobble, the clerk at church, was to dine with us, and Mr. Hubble the wheelwright and mice, Hubble, and Uncle Pumblicachu's uncle, but mice, Joe appropriated him. He was a well-to-do corn chandler in the nearest town, and drove his own cart. The dinner hour was 1:30. When Joe and I got home, we found the table laid, and mice, Joe dressed, and the dinner dressing, to enter by, and everything most splendid. And still, not a word of the robbery. The time came, without bringing with it any relief to my feelings, and the company came. Mr. Wobble, united to a Roman nose and a large shining bald forehead, had a deep voice which he was uncommonly proud of. He would read the clergyman into fits. He himself confessed that if the church was thrown open, meaning to competition, he would not despair of making his mark in it. The church not being thrown open, he was, as I have said, our clerk. But he punished them instrumentously. Congregation first. As much as to say, you have heard my friend overhead. To open that door, and I opened it first to Mr. Wobble, next to Mr. and mice, Hubble, and last of all to Uncle Pumblick. I was not allowed to call him uncle, under the severest penalties. Mice, Joe said Uncle Pumblick, a large, hard-breathing, middle-aged, slow man, with a mouth like a fish, dull, staring eyes, and sandy hair standing upright on his head, so that he looked as if he had just been all but choked. And had that moment come to, I have brought you as the compliments of the season have brought you, and a bottle of sherry wine and I have brought you, and every Christmas Day he presented himself as a profound novelty, with exactly the same words, and carrying the 2 bottles like dimples. Every Christmas Day. Mice. Joe replied. As she now replied. Well, I'll go Pumblechik. This kind. Every Christmas Day. He retorted. As he now retorted. It's no more than your merits. And now are you all rubbish? And how 6 penn'orth of halfpence? Leaning me. We dined on these occasions in the kitchen. And adjourned for the nuts and oranges and apples to the parlour, which was a change very like Joe's change from his working clothes to his Sunday dress. My sister was uncommonly lively on the present occasion, and indeed was generally more gracious in the society of mice, Hubble than in other company. I remember mice. Hubble as a little curly sharp-edged person in sky blue, who held a conventionally juvenile position because she had married Mr. Hubble don't know at what remote period when she was much younger than he. I remember Mr. Hubble as a tough, high-shouldered, stupid man of a sodesty fragrance, with his legs extraordinarily wide apart. Then when I met him coming up the lane, among this good company I should have felt myself, even if I hadn't robbed the pantry, in a false position. Not because I was squeezed in at an acute angle of the tablecloth, with the table in my chest, and the public again in my eye, nor because I was not allowed to speak I didn't want to speak, nor because I was regaled with the scully tips of the drumsticks of the foals, and with those obscure corners of pork of which the pig, when living, had had the least reason to be vain. No, I should not have minded that, if they would only have left me alone. But they wouldn't leave me alone. They seemed to think the opportunity lost, if they failed to point the conversation at me every now and then, and stick the point into me. I might have been an unfortunate little bull in a Spanish arena. I got so smartingly touched up by these moral goads. It began the moment we sat down to dinner. Mr. Wopsle said grace with theatrical declamation as it now appears to me, with the very proper aspiration that we might be truly grateful, upon which my sister fixed me with her eye, and said, in a low reproachful voice, "Do you hear that?" "Especially," said Mr. Bumblecooked. "Be grateful." But mice. Our both shook her head. To be continued.